All right, are we ready for chapter 9? Okay, let's begin with our simpler questions. So I see that you have a great interest in Charles and Tara. So, okay, Coco, why don't you start? Use a microphone.
Do you think Charles has a crush on Tara, or does Tara has a crush on Charles?
Okay, so before you voice your opinions, remember you have to give evidence, okay, to support your view. You may begin.
Probably the only time I'm going to speak this seminar. Okay, so basically, I have evidence on page 80. Yeah, that's the first time Charles talked to Tara. So 80.
I don't want to.
Which one? You don't go to school.
Page 80. Yeah, from that. It's like the first time. So basically, Charles, who is like the first one that brings up. Oh no, 79 Dave the first time. But Charles is the one that brings up like talk to Tara just like simply because he wants to tell Tara that she has the best singing voice he had ever heard. So I feel like Charles, maybe it's just like a pure compliment, but later on Charles wants Tara to join the choir with him. So I feel like Charles has something to do with Tara. Like to Tara.
Okay, before we move on, what's the question we're discussing right now?
Do you think Charles has a crush on like Tara?
Okay, all right. The question is whether Charles has a crush on Tara.
Or vice versa.
Or if they are going to develop into a couple.
Or like vice versa.
Which
Yeah,
one?
vice versa.
Which one? You can only select one at a time.
The first one.
Okay, whether Charles has a crush on Tara.
Or Tara has a crush on Charles.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so I have kind of evidence, I guess, for like Tara having a crush on Charles. So like on page 80, like paragraph 4, she said that I imagine Charles inviting me to his house to play a game or watch a movie and felt a rush of pleasure. And like, I mean, when you think about it, she's never, I mean, she's had like probably zero contacts with boys that aren't her brothers. So I mean, like, I feel like this is having a crush since it's like a rush of pleasure and nobody ever taught her anything about having a crush or like these things. And I feel like if you're really happy, like the pleasure that she's talking about, when like Charles would invite her to his house, I think it's like having a crush. And like she doesn't say like or crush since she doesn't have like an idea of that. Yeah, she doesn't know that there's something called like. Yeah, she's never experienced anything like this.
Okay, let's hear from the boys first, and then we go to Lynn. All right? Remember, you have to comment on the last person before you voice your opinion, okay?
I partially agree with Jenny's idea. I think that Tara doesn't really know what is love or like couples. She's only having good feelings on Charles, maybe because he's the only boy he has met to the outside world. But she doesn't really have enough confidence to say 表白 or things to Charles. As she mentioned also in page 80, it's like, what if he found the road cellar? What if he discovered a fuel tank? So he said, I felt something else when I pictured Charles visiting Buck's Peak, something like panic. So Tara don't really have enough confidence to start a relationship with Charles. Just my opinion. Thanks.
I mostly agree with...
Okay. You have to comment on both William and Jenny.
Fine. I mostly agree on both of them.
But they have different views.
I'm not certain that Tara or doesn't have a crush. It's like, from my point of view, because there was a time that I myself was treated badly, and then there's someone like being really good to me, and when there's only one person like that, so you.
Are you talking about your own history? Okay.
So that will be like, it can either be a true friend or like that. So I'm not sure if that could be a crush or not. So it depends. Like me, I treat that person like my own sister. So yeah.
So how does your experience relate to Tara and Charles?
Like Tara was, she doesn't met anyone at any boys except her brothers and her dad. So like most of other people also like treat her like a girl that doesn't go to school, a different girl. So when Charles, he admit like she has a very good singing voice, and he also like being really good to her. So it's kind of related. But like I said, Tara could treat her like a real friend or whatever. So I'm not sure.
So your conclusion is you are not sure.
Yes.
Okay. Wendy and then Rixin.
Can I just go on?
Sure.
It's are we still on the question? Yeah. Okay.
Oh, you want to move on?
No, are we still on the question?
Yes, whether Charles has a crush on Tara.
Or vice
It's
versa.
most likely because no, everyone is most people just try to avoid people like Tara. But then Charles, he just went on and sat next to Tara and starting a conversation with her.
So,
It's most likely that Charles has an interest. Charles have an interest on Tara.
okay. So before you speak, voice your conclusion first, and then explain your reasons. Okay. All right. Rixin and then Dayo did want to. Okay, you're next.
I disagree with Wendy. I believe that Charles' compliment was for real. Like he actually.
Is it what?
Charles' compliment, he really meant it.
Okay.
Because they're in a musical, and in a musical there's a lot of good singers. So why was Tara the best lead singer? So he might just made that compliment to talk to Tara as an excuse. And I also believe they both have crushes on each other because to Tara because she has less interactions with strangers. I believe that compliment meant much more than just merely a compliment. It's like a stranger is actually talking to her, and she's never really talked to anyone outside of her family before. So I believe they both like each other.
Good point. Guys, so I want to before Zhao speak, I want to remind you that your body language speaks a lot. So when a person is stating their opinions, if you agree or disagree, let your body language show it. Okay, if you are following him or her, the speaker, just nod your head slightly. If you strongly agree with her or him, nod with more force. Okay? Or if you doesn't agree, you can frown or you can shake your head or give some signals to the speaker. All right? Okay, Zai.
I agree with what everyone said to a certain point. I believe that due to her not
Okay, go ahead. You cannot agree with everyone to some point.
Oh, right.
Just identify with the person you agree with the most.
I agreed with were that she probably does have feelings for him, and that because she's only been interacting with her family, she definitely does not know what it's like to develop a crush and all. However, I believe that Charles has a bigger picture, a bigger character in this story than just being her love interest or being her boyfriend. Like, ever since this chapter, we've noticed that she's grown distant from just stories of her family. She's grown to singing, dancing, interacting with everyone in her town, in her village. So it's more like she's coming out of her shell and she's interacting with new things. She's developing new experiences. And so I think that Charles is going to be one of the bonds between her and the rest of the normal people, in contrast to her being tied to her family. Because during that metaphor with the gun and Charles being shot at, I feel like Charles is going to be something that she'll have to hide from her family, and it'll be one of the things that she has to make a decision, whether she wants to stay with her family or whether she wants to spend time with Charles, be normal, sing, and enjoy a school life, a normal life.
What do you think? That's very imaginative.
Very good.
I agree with that Zhao's point. Charles not only could be Tara's lover, but I believe Charles, most importantly, is the bridge between Tara and Dad, and Tara and the real world. So he's like that bridge in between. And I think I think Charles is gonna be the one in the future who's gonna motivate Tara to come out of her shell and actually hands-on experience.
Very interesting. I really like the word bridge.
I agree with both Zyle and Roshan. Like, I feel like he's going to play the role that basically introduces, like,
Jenny, you are already on chapter what, 20 or 30?
I forgot.
You cannot tell them the development of the later story, okay?
Okay, but if I didn't read it already,
Okay,
I would think that he would just be like the person who would introduce her and like help her. And if she goes to like I don't know, maybe leaves her house one day, he would be like, there, no, this is like.
Okay, all right, good. I think that's a very good interaction or discussion of whether Tara has a crush on Charles. Let's go to the next question, whether Charles has a crush on Tara. Wait, before we do that, can someone just briefly summarize the consensus that we have reached during this round of discussion? How about we listen to someone who hasn't spoken yet?
Jesse, you have been awfully quiet this seminar.
Can you just summarize like the main positions and views from everyone?
Okay. So most of us believe that Tara have a crush on Charles, because it is her first time that she interact with people like other people and new things
Outside
and
her world.
yeah, outside world. And it maybe symbolized the starting point, like or the bridge that she started like to interact the new things and try new things.
Okay, good. And can someone summarize what's the difference between our views? Williams and Jenny has a slight difference. You all agree that Tara has a crush on Charles, but what's the difference? Can someone summarize besides Jenny and William and Risin? Jesse, do you understand their difference?
Jenny's was like, what did Jenny say? The rush of pleasure. Oh yeah, so like when Tara thinks about, when she imagined Charles inviting her to his house, and she felt like a rush of pleasure, which she usually doesn't, and since she has basically like no contact to other boys, so Charles was like different to her, and Williams was like, what did he say? He focused more about when Charles, when she pictured Charles visiting her house, what will happen.
I think his main point is that maybe Tara did have a crush on Charles, but it's not serious love, right? Yes. Okay, so the difference between Jenny and William is their interpretation or their, how do I put this? Is William think that it's not a serious love? Okay, Jenny, what's your take on this? Do you think Tara has a serious crush, or it's a
It's a serious love.
casual?
You don't fall in like serious love with someone when you say you have a crush on them.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty different, I guess. Like, and we don't.
Can you love someone and have a crush at the same time?
Then it's called love, not crush.
No, I'm just saying that Tara.
Who said that?
It's just generally what we think.
Is it?
I mean, like when you
I thought you can have both at the
No,
same
when you fall
time.
in love with someone, it's not called a crush
And you fall in
anymore.
love, but you're not like.
Then you fell in
Oh,
love.
okay, so you think you have a crush first and then you fall into love, fall in love.
Or maybe love at first sight.
first sight.
Like Romeo.
I thought, Okay.
You
that-
don't exactly have any like solid hard evidence to say, oh, she totally likes him, or oh, she totally loves him. But I mean, she's like, I forgot her age, but pretty young. I think it's safe to say it's just like a small.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So good discussion there. Let's go to the next question: whether Charles has a crush on Tara. I think a good place to start is page 79. Can someone read paragraph 2? I'm Charles. 79. Go ahead. With microphone.
I'm Charles. He said there was a pause while he waited for me to give my name, but I didn't. I saw you in the last play. He said after a moment, I want to tell you something. I braced myself for what I wasn't sure. Then he said, I wanted to tell you that your singing is about the best I've ever heard.
Okay. I think this is a really interesting conversation or interaction here. What do you think after you read this paragraph?
There's something wrong.
So cute.
Like
I think
Asha.
Explain the William.
I was like, after so much, Tara finally has a person that have true feelings on her, except Dad's true feelings, but like true good feelings on her. And might be love. I was like, oh.
Okay. Have you noticed any irregularities in this conversation?
Yeah.
Tara didn't talk. It wasn't.
Tara said like, I braced myself for what I wasn't sure, and also like the Charles was like he spoke something, then he stopped, and like gaining the courage, and he says
What the courage?
gaining the courage to say the
Oh,
rest part.
interesting.
So it's somewhat different from normal conversation.
Jenny and then Racing.
Yeah, that's basically what I pretty much wanted to say. Like, normally if you're just complimenting someone, you're just like, oh, for example, oh, Jessie, nice watch. Like, you don't,
Thank you.
you don't like pause and like, Jessie, I really like your watch. That's like very, there's like a pretty big difference. Like, if you pause, normally it's a bit like you're like, yeah, like Richard said before, like, kind of like gaining the courage. Yeah. And also when Tara braces herself, like she said, for what I wasn't sure, like I'm not sure what she's bracing for. Like why would she be bracing herself? Like what did she expect to be like?
Do you all understand what brace means here?
Like
You get ready.
the like
Yeah.
defense, like
Uh-huh.
心理准备.
Uh-huh.
Like I mean what was she expecting for her to like brace?
Racing and then Jessie.
Jenny actually said what I wanted to say, like almost in the exact words. And I also wanted to add, he's actually creating a kind of awkwardness. It's like,
So
yeah,
is
he's pausing.
he
It's
doing
awkwardness.
that intentionally or?
I don't think he's intentional. I think it was like just at that moment, like a rush of, how do you say, adrenaline? Adrenaline, yeah. And then he's somehow accidentally creating that awkwardness, and like Tara's right herself, and you can see obviously. So it's kind of obvious from like how we usually compliment people and how Charles compliment people.
Okay, Jessie.
Can I respond to Jenny and not?
Sure.
Okay, so I feel like she was bracing herself because usually when other people talk about her, it's not, how do I put it, exactly nice words. Like usually.
It's not positive.
Usually, they don't really talk to her, to be honest. But the fact that the first time she's like actually interacting with a human being outside of her family, like someone her age, so she thought he was going to say something not along the lines of positivity, so she was like, that's probably why, I think, which is why Tara felt different to Charles. Like he gave her a different feeling from everyone else.
I thought of something like we just discussed about whether Tara have a crush on Charles. If Tara have a crush on Charles, this will make sense. It's like if Tara really like if he thinks Charles is like a good person, or I don't know how to say, yeah, he feels good about Charles, and like Charles suddenly moved for her and was about to say something to her, she would like become yeah, she will need to brace herself, like what is he going to say, and yeah. So if
Okay,
Tara do
I will have to move
Okay.
us to the next question. We can spend our entire class discussing whether they have a crush on each other. So let's move on to the next question. Can we move on to the next? Why
why is that
why is that only
disappointed?
disappointed after the year 2 casing?
Only disappointed?
I think yes.
Like,
He was not immensely disappointed.
emotions?
Right?
He will be more than disappointed.
Let's turn to the second last page. Page 81, second last paragraph. He sat as if posed, with no agitation, no embarrassment, as if there were a perfectly mundane explanation for why he was sitting up alone at nearly 2 in the morning. So no agitation, no embarrassment. Isn't that weird?
Yes.
After so much preparation for the day of abomination, right? Abomination, yes. Go ahead.
I think one of the reasons why he wasn't
Louder.
angry or furious or any emotion really is because he believed that this was something. It was the second coming of Christ. He believed that it was God's doing. So he didn't believe that God would actually disappoint him. So I'm sure he thought there was a logical reason why it hadn't happened yet. He's definitely 100% confident that God was going to deliver the Y2K mishap. He was definitely sure that the day of reckoning was coming.
I agree with Zio. Like, Dad, as we know, like, believes in God, like, 100%. Like, anything. Like, he would, like, believe in God with everything. And it says in, like, the last page, how it's like, but God withheld that flood, which I think is what Dad thinks. Like, the flood is the Y2K and, like, the day of domination. But, like, yeah, he's sure that there's a logical reason. And I think another reason is maybe because he didn't, like, process it. Like, he's been preparing for this for, like, a long time. And if suddenly it just, like, doesn't come, it takes a while to process. Like, you know it, but your brain just doesn't accept it, and you're still processing. Basically like that.
I feel like it has to do with like the Laurie stages of like denial, and then eventually he'll move to acceptance. So I think Dad at this stage is like he just got the message and he was still in shock. So I agree with Jenny, like he's still in shock trying to process all this information, and then like he's still like denying the fact that they disappointed.
I kind of agree. God. If
Let's, William, before you voice your opinion, I want to focus our attention on whether Dad was shocked at the time. What do you think?
I think he's not shocked because I think in such a stage as that before 12 o'clock, he strongly believes everything from the God. But now he can even live with his unbeliefs without the God because he truly believes in what he thinks. So he's a totally paranoid and self-believed person. So without a God, he's going to keep believing his belief and without any problem. So he doesn't felt really shocked because he believed that it's going to happen sometime.
I partly agree with William's idea. I think first Dad is not shocked. I think that's true, but I don't
You
think
have to give evidence and reason for that. Why do you believe he's not shocked?
It's like this.
You have to cite
Dad,
the text.
Dad is like there says like he seemed smaller to me than he had that morning. The disappointment in his features was so childlike. For a moment, I wonder how God could deny him this. It's like he was a little disappointed, and he was not so like dominant, like he was. But although it's
Okay, we only have several minutes left, so I have to point you to several keywords, okay?
Okay.
All right. Look at this second last paragraph again. Sometime after 1:30, I went to bed. I glimpsed Dad as I left, his face frozen in the dark. Circle the words if you have a pen. Frozen. In the dark. So that's the first word that Tara intentionally chose, frozen. And then she says, he sat as if posed with no agitation, no embarrassment. And then circle, as if there were a perfectly mundane explanation. Circle the word mundane. What does mundane mean? Yeah, a non-significant reason, something like that. So according to these words, do you think that Dad was in shock from someone else who hasn't spoken a lot yet? Jesse, what do you think?
I think he might be shocked because if
Which word would contribute to your reasoning?
frozen and posed.
Good. Frozen is more related to shock, right?
Like if Tara used the word as if, and if that really have a mundane explanation for like what he have expected so long, like for several years, like he won't be like frozen and sat there for hours. Yeah.
Good. So the key word here is as if. If I say, oh, Zayo just broke up with his girlfriend, as if he is okay. Is he okay? I said, as if he is okay, perfectly okay with it. So the hidden message here is actually he's not, right? As if there is a perfectly mundane explanation. So what Tara is trying to say is, what is Dad doing there?
his minus
Processing.
He was in shock, and then he I don't know if he, but this is my interpretation. He knows that Tara was behind him, watching him. Okay, so he's pretending to be okay. No agitation, no embarrassment. So that's just my take. What do you think?
I do agree that that might be in shock, but in another point, I think that is not. It's like take example, if you go back to your parents at the end of the semester and you're ready to you're ready to show them your GPA, then you find it's super low. So you, I don't think a normal person will, a regular person can hold his face like that. Although I know that Notara is behind him and he's trying to pretend he's okay, but there should be a little difference, not just mundane. I think.
Maybe like overwhelmed. He was overwhelmed by the.
I think if,
Yeah,
if
maybe.
it was others, I think perhaps like his hands will be he'll be like a bit more tensed or.
Okay. All right. One last question before we go. So the last line, but God withheld the flood. Do you think that Tara is being sarcastic here, or what's the tone when she wrote this?
Either sarcastic or
Do you think
or
it's
just
sarcastic?
怜悯或者
Pity.
pity or sarcastic.
What do you think?
Yeah, because like Dad used a lot of his time. Dad used a lot of his time to like prepare for this, like a few years or something, or possibly even more. And suddenly, like God just stops the flood and like nothing happened. Basically, all of that preparation just goes to waste. So pretty much like pity.
I mean, they could still eat the peaches.
Interesting. All right. Enough discussion. Good job, guys.